We're in the middle of holiday season, and this is the big season. And what we're seeing is still a lot of incentive. Carrier incentives here in North America are pretty big. And we're in the middle of that super upgrade cycle, right? And this is where actually, almost 2/3 of the iPhones are being converted to 5G, and it's going to be over the next 3 to 4 years. So there's massive demand. The problem is you can't deliver on supply. But in the meantime, the good news is Apple isn't completely dependent on hardware. They've got a wide services portfolio, and the services side you're going to see actually amp up over time as they add more services, as the services revenue exceeds 25% over the next 12 months. And that's why I'm bullish, and that's the bull case on Apple. Now, the challenge is if we keep having lockdowns in the Foxconn plant and Zhengzhou, we're in a little bit of trouble, right? Because you can't get devices out to people. But people still want high-end iPhones. They don't necessarily want the lower-end ones. They want the high-end ones.
And just on what you just mentioned in terms of the services revenue, obviously they've just increased their prices as well. So do you think that that's going to cause any kind of negative detrimental impact to that revenue?
I don't think it's going to hit them as much. I think the price increases will also account for a bunch of the Forex. It'll also account for some of their issues that they're going to have, especially with, pushing out revenue recognition into the next quarter. I think those are really designed to manage that. I think that a very, very smart FX strategy overall. The thing that will impact them is if there was a replacement in the market that would take out the iPhone. And at this moment, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, we very much haven't seen that yet. And okay, so a lot of issues when it comes to China right now. Do you think that this speeds up their push into other markets in terms of their production facilities, the likes of India, the likes of perhaps even Vietnam? Or is China still going to be the best, lowest cost option where all of the technical know-how is for the most part?
Well, as you know, the big theme this year and the big theme that we'll be walking into Davos towards the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, is going to be deglobalization. And I think you're going to see more and more of Apple diversifying where its production facility is going to be. But it's not just Apple. People are worried about supply chain risks. People are moving from just in time to just in case. And I think you're going to see that play out for Apple as well. India is a great market to actually build that manufacturing capacity. And of course, you'll see some more manufacturing that's going to occur in Latin America, of course, and of course in the US.
Now, you've got a 160 price target on Apple. You're obviously very bullish, not very bullish, but requisitely bullish. You mentioned that services revenue. Is there any significant downside risk for you, though, for anyone watching right now? Is it just going to be whether or not the demand is still there for these high-end models, or is there some other risk that people aren't necessarily looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, the only downside risk I'm worried about is really the any kind of FTC or regulatory requirements that are going to come either from the EU or anything that kind of hits that might affect, distribution, or this lawsuits that were happening on the, App Store. So the Epic case that was going on in the past, that was a downside risk. So it's antitrust is probably the bigger risk in the long run. But I think Apple's been very careful in terms of how it's been working with regulators, how it's been working with government officials in terms of how they open up markets, how they look at markets, and of course, how they're handling pricing in general.